joining. My name's Colleen. I lead all of the events and programming at the Battery. Thanks for joining us tonight for Finding Soul in Your Food and Beverage, our panel discussion. I had the opportunity to meet Chef Mimi, who is the founder and lead curator of the Black Food and Wine Experience this past July. If you're not familiar with the Black Food and Wine Experience, we'll put a link in the chat so you can check out more. They are planning to do their events next year around Juneteenth in 2021. So we'll be on the lookout for that. And the Battery will definitely be part of that event next year. So if you're a Battery member, look out for more information on that. When Chef Mimi and I met at the Battery, we realized we were both event people. And so we started talking about how we could be doing more to bring voices into this food and wine space and the hospitality space, encouraging conversation between people on how to support entrepreneurs in this arena, especially now after the pandemic. We're so fortunate to have so many amazing food and beverage entrepreneurs in the Bay Area. And so it's really important for us to be able to talk openly about how we can support them. So I'm really excited for the discussion tonight, and I hand it over to our moderator for the evening, Chef Mimi.
Hey, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is really excited. I'm excited to collaborate with the Battery to bring this important topic around diversity and inclusion in the food and wine space when it comes to being Black. And we are excited to have two other panelists. We have Robin McBride from the McBride sisters, and we have Matt Beres from Burgess-Burgess. And we're going to be talking about, what it means to be in this space. We love for you to join us in the chat because we want to have an open dialogue with everyone. And just a little bit like what Colleen was mentioning, I host the Black Food and Wine Experience, which is the largest Black food and wine festival in the West Coast. It's in Oakland, and we will be hosting another event during Juneteenth for June 19th, 2021. We're excited to be able to offer this space. We are celebrating Black chefs, restaurateurs, and all of our allies and winemakers, spirit makers in one space. So it's a lot of fun. In addition to the Black Food and Wine Experience, I produced the first Black culinary competition show similar to like Top Chef, where we take 7 African-American chefs and put them in all these different challenges and just have a lot of fun. Filmed in Oakland, and I'll be releasing that content very soon. And so I wanted to move on and introduce our panel. So we'll start with ladies first. Our Black girl in magic winemaker, Robin McBride.
Hey everyone. So my company is McBride Sisters Wines, and that's owned and founded by myself and my sister Andrea. And we've been in the wine business for about 15 years now, which is hard to believe, but I think we're kind of getting to be veterans now. But we make wines in New Zealand and the central coast of California. We're headquartered in Oakland, and we distribute nationally from coast to coast. And we've had the pleasure of working with Chef Mimi on many events over the year over the years around Black food and wine. So there's always lots to celebrate there. And we are now the largest Black-owned wine company in the country.
Woohoo! I always get excited when you say that, Robin.
Right?
So thank you for sharing. Matt, would you please tell us a little bit about your business and yourself?
Sure. I'm Matthew Burgess, one of the Burgess brothers. My brother Jonathan and I founded our company, Burgess Brothers, in 2012. So we're about 8 years old. We specialize in the hospitality business. We started out in the restaurant business and quickly decided that we wanted to move into not only restaurant, but more or less food distribution, as well as creating quality products that could be utilized in the hospitality market. From there, we've distributed our products from to the East Coast, to the West Coast, supplying theme parks to college campuses, to hotels and casinos and restaurants. It's been an honor to work with Chef Mimi. We actually attended the Black Food and Wine Expo last year, and it was excellent. We served waffles, and Robin, great wine. Me and Robin met at a networking event in Las Vegas, and we were just drawn to one another because, again, it's far and few in between when you find like-minded individuals in the hospitality space that reach a level where you're really looking to help other individuals that look like you, that often don't have the opportunities, or the same opportunities, I should say. So.
Thank you for sharing. I think that's one of the reasons why we're here, is to start the dialogue and conversation around diversity and inclusion within the space, and just to be able to share resources and have an honest conversation about the fact that, you know, we're struggling in this industry to continue to push the lens so that we are seen and heard and sort of identified for what we need to be doing and how we need to come together. And so it was a perfect combination for Colleen and I to have this conversation and figure out how we can collaborate with the Battery and Black food and wine makers. And so we're going to get started and dive right into our discussion. And so I want to ask the panel, in your opinion, how has Black businesses in the hospitality industry been affected? What are your feelings around social justice and economics within the hospitality industry? So I guess that's like a two-part question.
Been affected. So many things have affected the industry, right? So obviously, you know, this year, 2020, has been a challenge for everyone. COVID, obviously, for the hospitality industry has just been devastating. And I can speak from our perspective. You guys can maybe talk a little bit more about having you know, restaurants and spaces in hospitality. Us as a producer and as a supplier of products and consumer goods, we were rightfully terrified when everything started shutting down, because nobody knew what was going to happen, and we didn't know if our supply chain was going to stay open, if distribution, transportation, what was going to be affected. And then, of course, we saw a lot of our restaurant partners, our customers at our hotels, restaurants, bars, you know, clubs, everything just, you know, have to shut down overnight. And you know, it was devastating. And we look at the numbers and we see, I haven't seen hospitality numbers specifically, but we know that at least, you know, half of Black owned businesses have shut this year due to the impacts of COVID. And, you know, sort of on the other side of that, with all of the events of this year and the social justice movements, following the death of George Floyd and everything that was going on nationally and internationally, we then saw a huge movement to support Black-owned businesses. And for us, we weren't as impacted initially by the business closures, but that surge of support really kind of brought a new awareness to us as a Black-owned business, and likewise helped us to kind of bring some of the other folks that are in our industry and bring awareness to the fact that there are Black-owned businesses in this space that people didn't know about. So although, you know, again, for us, we're not a restaurant or a hotel, but we definitely, you know, saw the initial impact, and then, you know, we're able to experience a little bit of lift and a shift, and able to pivot our business during this time purely from the support of people supporting Black-owned businesses.
Mimi, you're muted.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that that's the takeaway from that is, you know, just being able to have awareness about Black-owned businesses, especially within the hospitality space, is so important. And I think this year has been a surge for us to be able to come together to say, you know, we do exist, we're in this space, and let's see how we can support each other. And it's been working. So thank you for sharing. Matt, are you ready to jump in for the question?
Yeah, sure, I'll jump in. And for us in the hospitality space, it's affected us. I mean, we had concepts in Levi Stadium, and we're looking to expand in there, which is concession space. We also understand our business. We were supplying college campuses, theme parks, Universal Studios, Hollywood, you know, those type of theme parks. And obviously we took a huge hit because immediately they came out and said, hey, we're going to shut down theme parks. We're shutting down ballparks and arenas. And as you all know, or maybe you don't know, but there's not a lot of us in those spaces as far as in concession space within ballparks and arenas. In the supply chain, as far as supplying products to major college campuses, or have those accounts that are established, which your traditional Cisco's would distribute to, or US Foods. So you don't have that safety net of supplying just about everybody. So you have a small limited amount of people or client base that you're supplying. So when those hits took off immediately, we had a pivot. Our brother Jonathan was pretty visionary in looking at some things, and strategic planning was one of them. Figured out how do we pivot to survive this this pandemic. And so for us, it was really challenging because, again, we didn't have those lucrative accounts or a contract that was established. A lot of times what happens is in the hospitality space, some of the corporate members, they'll lock up and they'll get a 5-year, 6-year, 10-year contract where they're working off a $5 million budget already. And when you don't have that leverage, there's a level of difficulty. And we had to really adjust rapidly and quickly and make some set moves. Also, we were supposed to go into other ballparks, which ultimately that all changed. I said, well, sorry, you're not going to be able to come to this ballpark. Looking at that and saying, okay, the social economic, justice component, we've been experiencing these challenges prior to that. I think the George Floyd incident brought more light because it did show the lack of what we have opposed to some of our counterparts. And so that alone opened up eyes. But I want to commend those that were doing business with us prior to the George Floyd, and in the midst of this pandemic, which actually helped our business and businesses.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So what would you think if a business wanted to do business with a Black-owned business, like what would be, in your opinion, would be ways to connect with Black-owned businesses? What do you think we should be looking for as a community?
I mean, and I'll start in that. I think, from the offset, after the George Floyd incident, we had corporations that came out and made bold statements about, supplying Black businesses. But again, they didn't have a plan as to how that's going to work. A lot of times what happens is you have these corporations says, okay, we're going to do this, but then they get a consortium or they get a fund manager and say, okay, look, we're going to give the money to this nonprofit and they're going to give classes to bring us in to teach us, which again, I think all those things are great, but some of us don't need those classes. We need that contract and we need that opportunity. So I think part of that is finding those of us in the industry, such as Robin, such as myself, and pinging us and say, hey, come to the table, let's brainstorm this. Because a lot of times if you're sitting at the table with everyone that has the same ideas, you're not going to get anything other than that same idea. And so you have to reach down into and look around you. And maybe it's not around you. Maybe it's reaching out to Chef Mimi, who's in your network that can help us out with this, that can give us some brand new ideas. And I think that's what really starts to change the dynamics in the picture and provide that, I won't say lifeline, but provide that support and opportunity.
Right. I think just to kind of piggyback on that is, creating that network and just seeing like who in the group is actually supplying certain things. So Robin had a relationship with the Battery and she was a member and she's seen an opportunity for us to collaborate. And so she felt that this was the best opportunity for me because I'm connected to a lot of other businesses to bring the conversation. And so I think that's pretty much what we're saying, like trying to figure out how do you network, how do you look at a situation like maybe you work for a corporation and everything in that corporation has a certain leg to it, like who supplies the toilet paper, who supplies the ink, who supplies, you know, the food, who supplies the catering, where are you getting your wines from? Just looking at the overall business and saying, I wonder, you know, how is this being done and who are we actually contracting with? Because I think, you know, part of economic social justice is to see and to look and to support other businesses that may not look like yourself or may not, you know, be a part of your network, but taking the leap to look outside. And so that leads me into the next question is, the Battery is a perfect example of an organization that is open to begin conversation and discussion and take a deeper dive into creating a safe space to engage in conversation. So in your opinion, how can individuals, companies, or organizations engage to you know, create opportunity with Black-owned businesses, with yours in particular?
Well, well, I'm honored that the Battery does in fact carry our wines, which we're very, very honored to have our wines there. But I think it's just like some of what you were just speaking about, Mimi, and some of the things that we talk about on the phone late at night is really how we need to be out in the world of business and advocating, you know, for each other, even when the other company is not present. When you see those opportunities, and you know, we're based in the Bay Area, right? We have lots of heads of huge, you know, companies and organizations, which is just like what Matt was talking about. You know, we're all trying to work towards getting a contract, right? Getting a purchase order. And, you know, when Mimi might be at, you know, doing a food demonstration at a certain company, you know, she's keeping in her mind out opportunities for Black-owned wine companies, or, you know, Black-owned food products, or paper, toilet paper, or whatever it may be. But, you know, from the company's perspective, and it's something that we kind of bump up against a lot, there's just not a lot of awareness and a lot of exposure to what companies there are that are Black-owned, right? And it's not that it's hard to find, and it's not that it's an excuse, but I think that we also have the ability to bring to attention to some of these companies and some of these corporations by advocating for other Black-owned businesses. And you know, we all sort of are in the same space around here, so we'll sometimes do an event with this big, you know, big company, or maybe it's Black History Month and they're doing a, you know, an event or something like that, and have us, using ourselves as an example, have us come in and pour wines. But really what we need to have happen is to, you know, be seen as viable businesses, and we need those purchasing departments. We need, if the company is serious about having diverse suppliers and supporting minority businesses, it needs to be written into their policy. There needs to be procurement, you know, procedures that they measure against to make sure that they're fulfilling those supplier diversity goals that they have. Otherwise, you know, in the sea of all of these larger, you know, other corporations, is really difficult for us, and we just kind of lean on each other to sort of advocate for each other when we're interacting in these different spaces.
Yeah, I love that you said that. It's so in other words, it's not just enough to have a diversity and supply list. It's really about putting in, you know, structure to say, you know, we're going to spend X amount of dollars with these businesses in particular, and have a budget for it, and to create, you know, an effect, and to support Black-owned businesses. And I really appreciate you saying that.
And to measure it and hold themselves accountable for it, right? And to look back and say, how are we doing against this goal? And do we need to do better?
Right. I mean, I'll echo the point, Robin. I just want to add too, is that, you know, as much as we want to hold those companies accountable, and we should, there should be some accountability if you're going to say, okay, we're going to make this spend towards minority businesses, and I'm just going to be candid and let's be real. Let's say Black businesses, because those are businesses that have struggled, significantly because of the word minority. It's across the board. It's common. And so what happens is you have to be intentional in whatever in what you're doing. And so if you're going to say, yes, I want minority business, but also I want to make sure that I'm vetting the right Black businesses, right? That are ready. And again, that has to come too from a relationship with people like Robin, people like you, and so that we are responsible for vetting those businesses. Okay, because that's a reflection on us, because we want to bring them to the table, but they have to be positioned and ready to do business. And so that dives a little bit deeper into it, because then it looks at, well, what are we doing internally in our business practices to ensure that we're helping other businesses that look like us that wouldn't have had that opportunity otherwise. So it's twofold. It's not just the corporate's responsibility, but they do have onus and some responsibility, because this has been systemic and it's gone on for way too long. And that's why ultimately I believe we are so far behind as a race of people. Not because we don't have great products, not because we want to be behind, because we do. We have great products. And a lot of times we don't know where to go to have access to that. No difference than you have the NFL that puts out a blanket statement. Oh, we're going to donate $100 million to social economic injustice. Well, what does that mean, and how do I have access to that? A lot of times that's so convoluted and no one knows where to gain access, because again, there's not a system in place saying, hey, we're going to fund this entity and we're going to put a responsibility on that entity to vet others. And now we're building. Now we're actually really building something, and we're holding those accountable, and we don't bring people to the table unless they're ready. And that's a mentorship as well. I mean, so again, that's building business, it's mentoring, and it's what we should be doing all along if we're going to get better.
I really like that you said that, because being able to build your business and to have a certain format, but also have someone that you know or seen that is a person of how you're striving to build your business like. And I think we don't have as many mentors, so it'd be great if we had access to mentorship to know, how do you structure a business, what are the foundations that you need to be able to apply for funding and scaling and all those different things that we tend to miss out because we don't have access to the things that we really need to move forward. So thank you for saying that. Robin, you had mentioned, we had talked about before, charity versus business. And I wanted you to elaborate a little bit about how people can support actual Black businesses, and what does that really mean when we look at money being pushed into charity as opposed to being pushed into the Black economical group in space.
Yeah, so I think we saw a lot of that this year, right? There was a lot of organizations that have philanthropic and charitable focuses, and a lot of corporate and individual, donation money went into there, which is great, because there's a lot of organizations that really need funds. And also at the same time, as business owners, when the Buy Black movement and supporting Black businesses sort of started to happen, it was sort of like there was a crossover. And I feel like a lot of the people who are donors, who are investing, and who are looking to help Black-owned businesses aren't really realizing, or aren't making the distinction between Black-owned businesses not being charities, and being businesses with business owners that support other businesses and whole communities. And so we were really trying to have that conversation, with a lot of the folks that were looking to support these various organizations, in that, just like we're saying, businesses need business owners need mentorship, business coaching. A lot of Black-owned businesses don't have access to capital in terms of commercial lending. Most don't. We found out that 95% of Black-owned businesses didn't qualify for or were rejected for the PPP funds when they came out. And, you know, we're really trying to invite people to look at Black-owned businesses as a possibility of being sustainable businesses and not as charities. And that, to us, that's a big distinction. And to us, that's a big distinction about the type of resources that become available. And also on top of funds, like money is important and great. But, you know, we look at what comes along with it, right? What comes along with helping with financial planning, you know, business strategy and decisions, long-term goal planning, short-term relief from, you know, the devastating effects of COVID. There's a lot more to supporting businesses than money that goes into some of these funds and foundations and charitable institutions.
Yeah, I think you know, by having access to capital, you know, we're able to build a more equitable shared space, and it's great for everybody. You know, it's great for our community. It's great for our cities to be able to have businesses that we can, you know, have a shared space and be able to support. I you know, I really love the social impact that it has as a whole. And so I wanted to ask that same question to you, Matt. What do you see?
I mean, so I'm all for charities. I think it's a great thing to have, but you know, as a business and what businesses really need during this time, supply a contract. You know, you're going to dump this money in a charity, so supply me with a 3-year contract so that I can now create a charity of my own, so that we can really build. Because again, you can dump money into a charity and say, okay, this is social economic and this is for the youth. That's great. But when you invest in a business that hasn't had that opportunity, but has the capability of scaling, and you've given them that contract, that business can now in turn invest in the community and establish or invest in that charity that you're going to throw money into. And that business now is within that community, which again, that brings people to work. And so it's not just a charitable giving. I'm not, you know, we're not looking for a handout, right? We're looking for opportunities, and we're looking for the same opportunities that have been giving to so many others for so long. And it's just understanding how the game works. A lot of them have been doing the game much longer. They know how it works, and things get locked up. But what I'm saying is, let's undo some of those contracts. Let's make room in the budget, and now let's really spend some money in those companies that are ready. And I think that's when you start to see real change. That's when you start to see people that and the corporations that are making true impact. Because let's face it, we've been given charities. I mean, and again, there's some entities that have been around forever, right, for a long time, and nothing against those entities. I think they've done a great job. You know, like the NAACP, great job, but they've been around for a very long time. So, and we're still facing the same problem. So what I'm saying is that we have to think of a different way or doing it different. And I don't think we've done it this way. And if we have, and you really vet those individuals, and again, it's no difference than, you know, when a company puts out an RFP, right? And you're still bringing the best players to the table, and you have to win that opportunity. So we're not saying, hey, give me this handout. No, we're saying we're skilled, we're ready. We just need the opportunity. And if it's RFP that we need to get in the door, let us come in and compete, or give us an option, give us a shot.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's exactly what we need. So what does the future look like for your business? Like, what's next for your business? What should other entrepreneurs be looking for as well in their business?
Can I say something? I think that we're missing. We got to go back to the basics. There are a lot of free tools that the government has for us, the SBCs here at the universities, that create these pockets of opportunity to get the business plans. A lot of us are established. Let's be honest. A lot of us are established. We've gotten contract with major retailers. I'm in the retail wholesale business with sauces and rubs. So, you know, me, Matt, and John, best friends. So we understand that space. That's the space in which I operate in. So there are no RFPs for Walmart. There are no RFQs for Kroger. You have to go in, sit down with a good product and a good price point to make it happen. But I think that if we're going to do something like this to where we can network and cross train or cross promote, that we have to create our internal space. First of all, you got to identify the businesses who knows about us. I need to get your information about this wine, so I need to order some first of all, because I never knew that you existed, and now tonight I do. That's great, but how would I have found out otherwise? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's a media issue that we have to address first. Let's identify the Black businesses by region, by zone, by type, however. And then once we do that, everybody has their own niche in which how we're going to go to market. I go to market at retail and wholesale spaces. Matt and John, they're doing the hotels and the theme parks. That's a whole nother bracket that I'm not even interested in. So what I can do is help them and they can help me. And we, because we're in the same space, we can. I just want to make sure that we use the tools for like the small business development centers who can help these young entrepreneurs and saying, hey, oh man, this light is horrible. And say, hey, listen, I didn't expect it to be this bad. So hey, just basically let's get them set up for success, because it's always about the foundation. Let's establish the foundation, and then like coach, teach, train, like you said, finding that mentor and tagging along with somebody and saying, okay, let me show you the ropes. Let's get you small business certified.
That's what's so important. And that's where a lot of people struggle, is finding those mentors, finding those business coaches. And I know, like you just said, a lot of the universities and educational institutions have them available. And I can't even really, I don't know, maybe you know better, but it seems that people struggle to find those resources. I don't, I can't say why, but if they're available, it seems like that's where, a lot of people struggle trying to figure out how to, get that, turn that side hustle into, a full-time and legitimate business.
Exactly.
And that's a resource that's, necessary, and for whatever reason isn't readily available. But, and I just want to add too, because that's sort of another, like what you're talking about. I don't know if you're sold on those retailers that you just mentioned. But if you are, we need to talk, because for us, that's something that we try to do, because our products are in all of the large national retailers and grocery stores and whatnot. But every time we go in, we're talking with these buyers. We are trying to bring, the whole community with us, but there's not a whole lot of Black-owned businesses that are in that are at that size that can scale to service companies like those. But when we do find out, like, we take everybody with us. Like, we're trying to figure out how to do cross promotions inside of Kroger and Walmart and Target, and find in any other category, Black-owned brands where we can do, whatever holiday promotions or bundles or whatever it is, to just try and, just piggyback off of everybody's success and just elevate even more like Black-owned brands. And one thing also is that these companies have supplier diversity directors in-house. This is for the larger companies, but they have these, whether it's a chief or director or whatever the position is, that can help these brands prepare themselves to scale to meet these larger companies, the demands of supplying them, basically, and then can also act as a sort of internal in-house guide, towards getting certification, towards preparing your business to scale for like a Walmart, for instance, and then being successful within that account. So that's also something that's available to minority businesses once you get to that stage where you're ready, or before you're ready, but to help you prepare to go into businesses like that, to have your products sold or services.
Thank you for sharing that, Robin. And thank you for joining in to the conversation. It's so important to have that space where we network and we share information like we just did. He just found out Curt just found out about your wines. You just found out diversity opportunities. And then even with the Black Food and Wine Experience, I mean, we plan on scaling the event and also moving the event into larger festivals around the country, so that there are there could be an awareness of Black-owned products, you know, a space for us to have conversation, to have wine dinners and things like that. We want to be adjacent to, you know, the Aspen Food and Wine Festival, to, you know, Pebble Beach and those type of events, because we need to be at the table and in the conversation if we're going to move the needle in the direction of where we need to go. So I appreciate, you know, everyone joining in, and even our allies. We need your support. We need you to ask the questions. We need you to jump in. We need you to also create opportunities and to see, like, maybe there's segues, or maybe there's, you know, ways that you can invest into, you know, our businesses. And so moving forward, I have another question before we get into our Q&A. So what is the one thing you would like the viewers to know? Like, what would you like for people to know about being a Black-owned business operator?
There's a couple things I want people to know. One is that, you know, we're approachable, and not only do Jonathan and I pride ourselves in talking the talk, but walking the walk, but also mentoring others. I mean, at any given time, we're mentoring 2 to 3 different businesses at once. Currently, I'm mentoring, I think, 3 different businesses currently as we speak that are in the space of products, or once you understand business, it doesn't matter what part of business they're in. They can be products, they can be commodities. You have that understanding that you can impart knowledge. And so that's one thing that I want the viewers to know. The second thing I want them to know is that entrepreneurship and working, it is challenging, but it's rewarding. It is, because you do become your own self boss, and you get what you put into it. And I want to say there has been some very good allies, individuals that have sought us out, or that we've sought out prior to the pandemic, like the Battery, okay? And in addition to Knott's Berry Farms, in the midst of the pandemic, okay, we flew down to Orange County and met with the VP president, and they're ordering pallets of our hot link in the midst of a pandemic. Again, so there's people out there that will provide opportunities. And like you said, we do want the allies, but also it's 2021 is looking great. Okay. We signed a national partnership with Airmark Hospitality. That's huge. It's going to put us in some places in Northern California and some college campuses, and we'll be looking to go back south and some other places. So Burgess-Burgess is a lot on the horizon. And that's just one of the great things that we have coming out of this in 2021. And there's going to be additional opportunities. But one thing that we do, just like Robin talked about, our business, when we find those entities or individuals or businesses, this isn't a competition, because Curt does sauce and I do sauce. This ain't no competition, because again, we have to understand the business that we're in. Okay. It's about turning the dollar. All right. So we can all win. There's enough for all of us. We can make this happen. And so Curt, there's several others that I invited this call that are in the same product line. And we had plans to scale those products in the hospitality space, like the concession, Levi Stadium. We're in there. So our products are in there. So what are we looking to do? Now that we're in the door and it's hospitality, we're talking about volume now. So we bring those in through that door, because it's our branded concept. But that's how you build, and that's how you do B2B. So again, we have to realize that we have just like we talk about social economic injustice, we have a social responsibility to bring others up behind us.
I really love that you said, you know, there's no competition in terms of the internal group of us, you know, because sometimes people feel like, oh, there can only be one, you know, Black wine company, or there could be only one person, you know, doing what you do, or, you know, making sauces or whatnot. So, you know, it's a $1.9 trillion industry in terms of the African American, you know, dollars, and what we have spending power with. And so, you know, we have, you know, Coco Noir, you know, we have the McBride sisters, we've got Wachera, we've got several different winemakers. There's different, you know, chefs, there's different restaurants.
You got to give a shout out to Rufus Burgess Goat now. I forgot to do that.
I have to give a
Coming to the Battery.
I was just getting ready to say, you know, once I found out the needs of the Battery, my first thing was to figure out how we can bring product into the Battery. So the McBride sisters, they're already there. So I've talked to them about bringing in Red Bay Coffee, bringing in the Beverage Brothers, beer. They have their new beer product, and they have a amazing story behind that. Can you just give us a quick, little snippet of the story behind the beer? Because I think it's super important to understand, how we've come along and some of the legacy and history of being Black in the hospitality space. And so Matt and John have an incredible story, and they've created this amazing beer brand. So can you just give us a little quick snippet of it?
Yeah, and thank you for that opportunity. Just to give you a small snippet, the Rufus Burgess Golden Ale is named after our great-great-grandfather that was brought to California as a slave. He was, after he found gold, he earned his freedom there. And we've thought, what other way to patronize him but to name a beer after him? And he was the original pioneer of Coloma during the gold rush and after the gold rush. And so we named that beer after him. And there's history that there's a picture that actually the state park utilized. It's him and Dan Thusser, a couple Irish gentlemen, and himself in the photo. And they used that photo in the 1850s. And again, we're looking at using that photo again. We have put it on the beer, but it's to bring about unity, right? It's a great story, a great beer. And so I'm looking forward to sharing it with the world.
Thank you. I just wanted to say a quote that Curt just said. He said, "People buy into person before they buy into products. A great story goes a long way." And I think that's one of the things that we all have, is we all have our legacy. We all have our story behind what motivates us to continue to be in the hospitality space. Because like you said, Matt, it's not easy. It's definitely a space where you have to keep, reinventing. You have to keep pushing yourself. Colleen and I have had these discussions. Robin and I have definitely spent a lot of time. Alicia, Kai, several people that I talked to about, the industry and where we need to go and why it's important for us to continue the conversation and to be strong, because there's days where we just break down and we're like, we feel like we don't have the support that we need. And then, we have we end up having each other, and that could be the support to just help us move to the next level. So as we clear for question and answers, does anybody want to say anything just to kind of close out? Please.
I do. I wanted to say, I just want to add to that last thought, to that final point, and why, patronizing Black businesses for many reasons is very important, but also how far those business dollars go and how far that support goes in the communities. And I don't think I've in my life ever met one Black business owner who didn't have, a 4 or 5 or 6 or 10, up and coming entrepreneurs and business owners that they are mentoring, late at nights or early in mornings or lunch or what have you, and who are also actively always looking for ways to invest back with other minority businesses. And so, just like Matt was saying, give us a contract or whatever, just give me that one contract. And, he's in turn, he's probably, I'm guessing, but probably investing back, those dollars into, another 10, Black owned businesses. And he's mentoring any number of people at the same time who are trying to also get into business as entrepreneurs. And that's something that for my sister and I, after so many years in the wine business, which is not, has not been very diverse in terms of gender diversity or racial diversity, that my sister and I struggled with so many years just trying to find people who could mentor us and people who could give us advice, and anybody really that we could kind of connect with to learn the business and to optimize our own business. And for us, it's an exciting time after so many years that we feel like we have expertise in the business, that we're able to mentor those who are interested. We talk to people all the time. And then also to be able to, for us to give back through our funds that we established last year, which was really around professional development for women in the wine and spirits industry, because obviously we know what that struggle is, and we felt like we are able to help in that way with money, but also with mentorship and professional coaching and leadership. And then this year, when we launched it, we self-funded the funds. And then this year, with everything that's gone on in 2020, we decided to focus the use of those funds to Black women-owned businesses that have been small businesses that have been affected by COVID. And it's just so amazing to see that we now have, although we self-funded last year, we now have the support of a lot of organizations. These are our retail partners, a lot of the local tech companies who are also who are investing in the fund, but also providing business skills and leadership and mentorship programs. So, if there's any silver lining out of this time, I just see this as really exciting for us to be able to, facilitate and act as sort of a conduit to bring in these dollars and these resources to mentor women and Black women in this space.
Thank you for sharing that. And so for anyone who's listening that wants to support that fund, please reach out to the McBride sisters on their website. If you can put it in the chat, that would be helpful. And then also for women who want to apply, you can also go to their website as well. Yeah. That's incredible. Thank you, Robin. And that's just an example of how you start out, you get support, and then you go back to the community and you share that support that you've been given. So thank you for doing that. That's incredible. So we're going to wrap up for Q&A. So if anyone has any questions for myself, for Robin or Matt, or just want to say something, please feel free to unmute yourself and jump in or put it in the chat.
Somebody's gonna have something to say.
Hi, my name is Annalie. Can you guys hear me?
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I can't show my face because I'm multitasking on a hike, but I've really appreciated listening to everything that you guys say, and I actually own an event production company. So was hoping that I actually could have all of your guys' contact afterwards so we can get this network started on learning about more businesses. But I also have a few things that I could share with you guys about business resources that are free that I found through COVID for our company as we had to deal with this pandemic in a similar way. So I'd be happy to share those as well, but what would be kind of the best way that we can share information back to be able to get out to all of your networks as well?
So Colleen, what would be the best way for us to kind of have a shared space? Do you have any idea through Battery?
We don't have a solution through the Battery, but we could start through email. So Annalie,
Okay.
you can send me an email and I can put it as a part of the wrap up. We've been recording this talk, so we'll share it with everybody who RSVP'd, and I'll share it with Matt and Robin for those of you who got invited directly from them. So we can include those resources from Annalie in there, and maybe our panelists will include their email addresses, that if you all want to learn more and contact them, y'all can do that directly.
Perfect, thank you.
That's amazing. One last thing that I might want to say, I got inspired listening to you guys, and one of the bigger takeaways that I gathered from this is, if you're working with one Black-owned business, talk to that business about who else they know in the community, because it is sometimes difficult to. I mean, we work in such a referral-based business, at least I do, and so referrals are everything, right? And you might as well have an opportunity to have a vetted referral. But something that's really picked up in the event industry for us is virtual events and kits, these mail kits of like goodies or of meals, wine tastings, like all that kind of stuff. So I wonder if there's an opportunity to like kind of build and advertise amongst the community a kit that could be distributed to some of these larger companies to be at these virtual events, and then also just kind of help with creating more awareness and allowing all of their guests to try your products.
I like that idea, and I'll speak to that because I'm mentoring a young group of entrepreneurs now, 5 sisters, and they have a kit that's called Hey Sis, and they're featuring small Black businesses. That's what they're featuring. So they have a meal subscription kit. I'll be happy to connect with you to get you some information. I'll put my info in the chat or.
Amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll definitely get it from Colleen. I'm
Okay.
unfortunately not going to go to chat right at this particular moment. But
Awesome, because even with the Black Food and Wine Experience 2021, we're looking at doing a meal kit with Black-owned wines and distributing as an event, as a virtual event leading up to the bigger event. So I would love to speak with you offline because we both are in the event space, and I could some opportunities to collaborate. So thank you.
We love collaborating. I think that something that at least our in the hospitality industry, we've noticed so much coming through COVID is that the hospitality industry is incredibly strong and incredibly agile. And there's a lot of opportunity out there if he sees it. And it's also leveling the playing field a little bit too, right? At least there's new opportunity and everybody's starting at the beginning line, or at least some part of the beginning line. I realize that the beginning is not the same for everybody, but I think that, there is a lot of opportunity out there, and the hospitality industry is going to come out of it stronger. So I'm hoping that can, help all of your guys' companies as well, and you guys can ride that wave with us.
Thank you so much for sharing, Annalie. We look forward to receiving your email through the Battery. So does anyone else have any other questions or comments?
Hi, this is Alicia, owner of the Wine Noir and Cocoa Noir. I think also beyond just the what's been going on socially, that businesses that are our allies, they should put it in their motto to support Black-owned businesses year-round. And it makes good business sense. Not only is it morally right, because we are American businesses, but it should be part of your structure. It should be part of your natural business. It should be tied to your mission and vision. There was a study done, I think, by Citibank that said due to racism, that the United States lost over $13 trillion worth of income due to racism and white supremacy and not doing business with Black-owned as well as other businesses of color. So from a morally or from a humanistic perspective, it's only right to do businesses with Black-owned businesses and women-led businesses and other businesses of color. But also from a financial perspective, you're missing out on so many great opportunities. By 2030, the business ownership community is going to either be led by Black people and other BIPOC or people of color. So I say if businesses don't want to align with that, they will be out of business. So.
Great.
Thank you, Alicia, for sharing. That's definitely a point that I stick by in terms of the Black Food and Wine Experience and being able to showcase Black-owned businesses and allies is to bring a shared space. I think one thing I love about this conversation is that we have so many different people from different backgrounds. And the great thing about the Battery is that, they do bring diversity to the space, and it's not just Black people talking to Black people talking to white people. It's us coming in together to figure out how do we solve the problem? How do we connect? And Annalie, you just basically gave a quick response to say, hey, let's email each other. Let's figure out how we can put this together. And that's pretty much what we need to do. There's so much richness in Black-owned businesses. And there's also so much, it's a lucrative business, so we do control $1.9 trillion. And it's an industry that has been sort of like pushed to the side. With the Black Food and Wine Experience, we sell out super quick, and we have so much demand because we're targeting an audience that no one is really targeting and put into the back forefront, which is African-American women are doing some incredible things, and we are controlling, our dollars, and we're building businesses just like Robin and Alicia and, several women that are in the Bay Area and abroad. And so we just want to be able to be in the space and to be looked at as you know, as a viable business. So anyone who wants to connect with us, we appreciate it. We're still open for Q&A. We have a few more minutes, so if you want to dive in, please feel free. Chef Lamont, I see you out there. I just wanted to give you a shout out. Chef Lamont has a business called Lamont Perriman Catering in Oakland. He's been around for a while. He's done some incredible things with his business. Him and I have collaborated, and we've been connected in business for a long time. It's just, you know, it's one of those things where you just support each other. You tell people about each other's businesses. And go ahead, Lamont, you had something to say?
No, I just wanted to say that it's a great thing. I actually just left work and am in transit onto the next job because I've been busy the whole time since quarantine started. And it was funny that I heard the last comment about connections and just kind of, you know, keeping in the loop, because, you know, reason I stayed at work is because I'm getting to the point where I need more resources. And the only way you get more resources is by networking and connecting and talking and keeping conversations going, so that, you know, we can keep building up on, you know, what we're doing and just try to maintain our viable businesses. So, you know, because again, you know, even with this situation or even before this situation happened, you know, it's day to day. It's always been a day-to-day hustle and just that little bit of working extra harder. Where sometimes even when you're looking at your peers and looking at businesses that aren't of color, where sometimes you see things get handed to people, and it's hard not to kind of step into that space of, well, why does he get that? Why does this person get that? Why is this business getting this support? Where's my support? I'm offering support because, you know, from my standpoint, where I've been in the industry, I'm at a place where I'm offering support while I'm also working, because I've got younger chefs who were in my position, for example, 10, 15 years ago, that are trying to start viable businesses, and they've got questions, they've got connections, and they want to get resources. And so I've also been like mentoring, you know, a number of different people on different levels. And it's things like this that can help me, you know, as a business owner, also do better, but also direct people in the right areas and get people connected with someone that could help them catapult whatever business that they're working on. And it's indicative of any business of color in any industry. And I know hospitality, you know, we've taken a hard hit, you know, during this pandemic, but again, to keep the networks going and just to keep building. So, I mean, you know, from when I jumped in, I heard all good things. So,
Thank you, Lamont. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any questions before we close out?
I have a question.
Okay.
So I want to ask specifically for our chefs who maybe have or don't have restaurants, who are, you know, out, are back into catering, or, you know, have had to pivot, you know, somehow during this time. Like, what is a good way for people to support the chefs specifically with all of the restaurant closures and whatnot during COVID?
I guess I can answer that for myself. I don't have a restaurant. I chose not to open up a restaurant just because of not wanting to do it after so many years being burned out. But having an event company and doing events, you know, everything was closed down. So I had a catering company that rotated within the spaces. And so now that tech companies are closed, I had to pivot. So it took me a few months to figure out what I wanted to do. And I got a call from Google, and they were like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. And they were like, can you do some virtual cooking classes? And so I started doing, you know, virtual cooking classes, and then partnering with some corporations to do like I'm doing some commercials with Impossible. I'm partnering with, you know, with major corporations to kind of do some of the things that would help me, because now I'm not actually catering for companies. But it was really tough because, you know, that was what my business model was built off of. And then of course with Black Food and Wine Experience coming off of that in February, being so high and me like, oh, this is about to be lit, everything's about to go good, and having everything just kind of drop, I was definitely stuck. So doing the virtual cooking classes has been something that has been a good win for me. You know, partnering with other companies, partnering with people who want to see more diversity within their product line has been really good. And then also mentorships. I've gotten opportunities to work with a business coach, to work with mentors, to work with the Battery as a chef in residence, to work with, you know, to have different relationships with different people. It's definitely been a really good opportunity for me to kind of sit back and regroup myself. So I definitely appreciate the question, and I know that there's other chefs out there that might have other things that they've done. So is there any other chefs that want to answer that question?
Or
How
you
have you pivoted?
all chefs?
Yeah.
So anyway,
All right. So
I have one thought from a.
you're on
you
mute.
got muted.
You're on mute.
Oh,
You're
sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have one thing that everybody could do literally today when they leave. So I run a digital marketing agency on the East Coast, and you all have probably LinkedIn or Facebook. So what I would do is make a connection, ask for what you want. If it's you want a mentor, ask, you know, all your connections. Do they know anybody? Or how you can get somewhere. And if you ask, if you have 500 connections and you put your actual want in there, out of those 500, ask them to share it with 3 people. That's 1,500 people that you're vetting out for what you need. And it's a real big help. So that's a way that you can network really quick. You might find other people are going to ask you more about your business, and you might come up with some other ideas. But just real quick, what you can do today.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
It's great advice.
That's exactly what I did when I needed help. I went on LinkedIn and just said, hey, I need help with X, Y, and Z. Can you guys help me? And it was definitely helpful when I went into contract with Impossible Foods. I called Robin. I'm like, hey, Robin, you know, how do I structure this partnership? And just being able to have, you know, someone who's done a partnership before give me some advice is definitely helpful. So if there's any mentors out there that can help, you know, we definitely, the list that Colleen's putting together would be great, you know, emails. And,
Yeah, I was just going to call that out. I put my email in the chat, so feel free to take that down. And if you want to be connected with any of the panelists or each other, reach out. We're going to kind of go old school with it and like start a chain letter, but if we can all just connect with each other and then expand on our networks from here, it'll be a really big impact. So it all starts with hopefully the first of many conversations on this topic and about continuing to resource within our own networks and communities. So I want to thank Chef Mimi and Matt and Robin again for taking the time and sharing such amazing insights. Send us a note and we'll send a follow-up recording to everybody so you can revisit this and share it with your network, and we can all continue learning.
Thank you so much. And we want to thank you too, Colleen, for being an ally and supporting this discussion. It's more than what we can ask for, and we appreciate, and we definitely want to continue. So thank you.
Absolutely. Everyone take care, stay safe, have a good night.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you everybody who showed up, and thank you, Matt. We appreciate you all.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.